Hi guys, this is a continuation of our last video. I just didn't want it to be too long. I wanted to take a break. I wanted to stop for just a minute. Now I want to go back over. I want to repeat just a couple of things, okay? First of all, I'd like to go over how to name a hydrate. So in the first video, we determined that the formula for this hydrate was going to be NiSO4 with 6 waters. So if I want to name this, then I first have to name my NiSO4. So let's just take this as the first step. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to name this ionic compound. I look and I say Ni is nickel, and it is a transition metal. So if it's a transition metal, I have to spread my elements and do a backwards crisscross. Right, all of this is a big review. So I get a positive 1 and a negative 1 right there. But whenever I go through and I look at my SO4 on my polyatomic ion table, I see that SO4 has a -2 oxidation state. So the only way that that could have been a 1-to-1 ratio is if that -2 was, and on this side was a +2, and therefore they can reduce down to that 1-to-1. So now that says that this is nickel, NiCkel, Roman numeral 2, sulfate. So that's the name of the actual ionic compound. Now I need to go through and look at my prefixes. So whenever I look at this, this is 6. So I know that the prefix for 6 is hexa. So I'm going to put hexa. And then this is a hydrate, guys. So I just put hexa hydrate. So this is called a nickel 2 sulfate hexahydrate. All right. So in today's mini lecture, I want to go through and do example problem 2 for you. And it's going to be set up the exact same way. And like I said in the previous video, I'm a very visual type learner. I like to see things laid out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the problem and then I'm going to lay it out exactly the way the first one was. It says a hydrate of calcium sulfate, and I don't know the formula for it, with a mass of 1.26 grams. Slowly heat to remove the water. Then it says the mass of the anhydrous is going to be 0.99 grams. Determine the overall formula. So I know that this is going to be a CaSO4 H2O. This is my hydrate. I just don't know the actual number here. That's what I'm going to be looking for. I do know that the whole entire mass of this is 1.26 grams. So that's the whole mass. It says the anhydrous without the water. So if I had without the water, that would be just my ionic compound. It's going to be 0.99 grams. Well, if I know that that's the total mass and I know that's part of it, then I'm going to have some number that I add to the 0.99 that will give me the 1.26. And that is going to be 0.27. So that is going to be the mass of the water. Guys, once you figured this out, that is the hardest part of it. Because now, all I have to do is take this, follow my mole map, and change that from grams to moles. So I'm going to go through and say 0.99 grams of calcium sulfate. And then I'm going to change it to a mole. And to do that, I have to know that the grams and mole relationship is the molar mass. So what is the molar mass of a calcium, a sulfur, and 4 oxygens? When I do the mass of the entire compound, I find out that that mass is 136.2. 136.2 grams per 1 mole. So now I can go back in and determine how many moles that is. And I get, for my answer, 0.00727 moles. All right, So that's going to be the first part. The second part is to get my 0.27 grams of water, and I want to convert that over to moles. So to do this, I'm just going to use, again, moles on the top, grams on the bottom, the molar mass of my actual water. We already said that it's 18.0 grams per 1 mole. So when I go through and I divide that out, I'm going to get 0.015. I think that was, yes. So now, guys, these are my two numbers. I'm going to divide by the smallest, 0.00727, 0.00727. When I do that, of course, that's going to be 1 because I'm dividing by the same number. And then when I put this into my calculator, I'm going to get this one to be 2. So it is at a 1-to-2 ratio. So you say, well, what does that mean? That means that my salt is going to be at 1, my water is going to be at 2. Now, if I go through and I try to name this, I look at it, calcium, my ion part is going to be calcium, which is not a transition element, so I can just write it down, Cal, calcium. And then SO4 is a sulfate. Why did I not put a Roman numeral? Just simply because the calcium is not a transition or one of those heavy metals that we talked about. So now I have to come over here and look at the prefix for 2, and that's a dihydrate. So calcium, sulfate, dihydrate. Now, one of the things that you may have noticed is that in all of my hydrates, the ionic compound is always going to be 1, and then you're going to get a prefix. That is true. You can never have multiple numbers here like 2 or 3 or 4 because we're talking about that internal structure. So it's a 1 to something ratio, whether it's a 1-to-2 or in this case a 1-to-6 or a 1-to-10. It has to be a 1 ionic compound to so many number of waters. All right, so I hope that this has helped you. I would like for you to go through, complete these, and place them into your digital notebook, and then we will get ready to start prepping for our Hydrate lab. Thank you.